Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Kaylee and these are my books. So this video is a very exciting one because this is the start of a themed reading vlog where I read 4 water horror books. So I read Into the Drowning Deep probably last year, and that became one of my favorite horror books of all time. It is about killer mermaids and a bunch of people trying to create this documentary about this underwater phenomenon. Of course, things go wrong, a bunch of people die, and it is fantastic. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Not even just one of my favorite horror books, but one of my favorite books. And ever since reading it, I've really just wanted to read more water horror because Into the Drowning Deep, as you could probably tell from the title, is a water horror book. I want spooky ocean vibes. And so this is a vlog dedicated to me trying to find those spooky water vibes. I have 4 books I'm trying to read in this vlog. I am trying to read The Deep by Alma Katsu. This is a historical fiction horror book, which is a reimagining of the Titanic, and I believe it goes supernatural. So of course the Titanic sinks, so this is about a boat that sinks, possibly due to supernatural circumstances, and of course it sounds like there are scary water things going on. I think boats are terrifying just in general. Cruise ships, terrifying. Boats anywhere, even if you could see the shore, boats just freak me out because when they sink, they can suck you under too. No. So a big boat like this sinking, terrifying. And I've never read Alma Katsu before, so I'm very excited to give this book a try. And the next book I will be reading for this vlog has the same exact name, The Deep, but this book is by Nick Cutter. This is the same author as the author of The Troop, and The Troop is a pretty popular book that he's done. This one gets less positive feedback. This is a water horror book too, obviously, because it's in this vlog. But this is about a plague that takes over the world, and the cure to this plague is magically at the bottom of this ocean. And so a bunch of scientists have to go down and create an underwater base to harvest this cure for the plague that's topside. But things go wrong down in the underwater base. People have said that this book is boring, so I'm a little bit nervous for it. I am buddy reading this with Lexi from Books with Lexi, and we're both hoping we have positive reviews of this book, of course. But I'm just nervous. I loved The Troop, however, and I love underwater horror, so I'm still excited for this book, just a little tiny bit afraid. And the next 2 books I don't have physically, but I will be reading From Below by Darcy Coates. This is Darcy Coates' version of water horror. I love Darcy Coates, but she normally writes haunted house stories, so her writing a water horror book sounds amazing. And this is a book about a bunch of people who are trying to make a documentary based on this shipwreck that's been discovered 100 years after the boat the boat sank. And this boat sank infamously. It's one of those unsolved mysteries. No one knows why this boat with 600 people on it sank, and these people making a documentary are just trying to explore the remains of the boat and see what the heck happened. However, things go wrong in both timelines, and the boat might have sank due to supernatural reasons. And the last book I will be reading for this is actually a novella, and this is the prequel novella to Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. I'm not recalling the name off the top of my head, but it's somewhere on the screen here so you can see it. Like I said, this entire video is inspired by Into the Drowning Deep, so of course I had to include the prequel to Into the Drowning Deep. I am so excited for all of these books, and I am now going to cut to a clip of me reading. Okay, I'm checking in a bit earlier than I was going to. I'm only 6% into From Below by Darcy Coates. That's what it's called, right? Yes, From Below. All of these titles are so similar that I'm getting confused, but I started with Darcy Coates' From Below, and I'm just laughing though because in the first chapter of the past timeline, we get a distress call from the ship that's going to sink, and it's not a Mayday distress call. Apparently there's a distress call that is for like the lower tier version of Mayday, meaning there's not like human bodies, it's just there's an issue, but it's not a human issue, and it's pan. And they keep saying like pan. I'm just like dying. someone saying Mayday sounds like important, right? Mayday, Mayday, help, help, like pan, 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 pan. I was just laughing. And it's supposed to be this really creepy scene because what they're describing is terrible that's happening on this ship. But then they're just saying pan, pan over and over. And they're like pan, 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 pan. And I'm just imagining a really serious, scary voice saying pan, pan. I'm sure to some people, pan, pan was common knowledge, but this is the first I'm hearing about that distress signal, and I was dying. So the initial spookiness of this chapter didn't hit how it was supposed to because I was just laughing and finding it hilarious. So signing out, pan, 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 pan. Good morning. So I ended up going to sleep last night before I got super far into From Below. I did end up making it about 25% of the way through though, which is like 120-ish pages, and I'm really enjoying it. The small flashbacks back to the ship that ends up sinking are so creepy, and there's 600 people aboard this ship. This is not just like a small fisherman's ship. This is a big cargo ship that was transporting a bunch of people. So it's just crazy. The idea of it sinking is so scary, and and then the present timeline is really good too, because it's basically this team of divers discovering the wreckage of this 100-year-old ship for the first time. Like, this is the first time people are seeing this ship, and creepy stuff is happening. So it's just so good, and it feels so unique. It feels almost like I mentioned in the intro, water horror and space horror feel so similar to me, and this is giving me like when the divers are in the water and they're 300 feet under the water, just that sense of claustrophobia is so similar to the sense of claustrophobia in space horror too. And I was just thinking about like how it would feel to be down there in this sunken ship, like 300 feet under the water, where your oxygen tank is running low. Like, oh my god, I was like cringing last night just thinking about all this stuff. And so basically, long story short, I'm really enjoying it. But I am gonna start The Deep by Nick Cutter today. Here's the book. I'm gonna start this because I'm buddy reading this with Lexi from Books with Lexi, and we kind of agreed to read a certain amount of pages each day. So I'm gonna read some of this, and then once I hit the page goal, I'm gonna switch back to the Darcy Coates book. I will update you when I've read more of either this or the Darcy Coates book. Hello, so I made it to page 90 in The Deep, which is the start of part 3, as you can see here. I'm really enjoying it so far. I won't say it's feeling like a 5-star though. I am enjoying it, but okay, I love the parts that are set in the present day where it's set underwater and there's lots of creepy stuff going on. But I'm not loving the flashbacks as much because they're kind of weird. Like, I feel like one of the flashbacks is really fat phobic, and so I hated that, but I'm just looking past it for the rest of the book. But I don't know, it was one of those cases where it's tricky because there was a bad character, and the bad character happened to be plus size, but then it felt like being plus size was part of what made them a bad character. So I did not enjoy that, and I wish it had been written in a different way. So heads up to anyone who's possibly interested in The Deep. There was a very dicey scene with not great representation. This book is reading very sci-fi-y right now too, which I'm enjoying because I really like science fiction. So I will say it's feeling enjoyable and I'm liking it, but I do have some issues with the flashback scenes, and I'm hoping that those issues don't continue and the focus stays on the present day. I wanted to do an update here in a slightly more official spot since I'm already standing here filming some other videos. I am 50% into From Below by Darcy Coates, and I'm still really enjoying it. Both timelines are so intriguing to me, and the characters, like, I don't know what's going on with them. Some of them could be bad, some of them could be good. Like, it is very unpredictable for me. I will say though that people do criticize this book for being slightly too long. It's a 470 page book, so it is quite a long book, especially for Darcy Coates, because normally her books are a bit short, like range from 200 to 340 pages ish. And I kind of agree with that criticism at the 50% mark. I feel like things could have been a bit tighter so far. I mean, I'm 50% of the way through, so what, that's like 235 pages I've read. I feel like it could have corresponded to maybe like 150 pages worth of material, but it's been stretched out to 235 pages. It is not terrible. I'm still really enjoying it, don't get me wrong. But it just, I do see the criticism of it being too long. Just as a heads up, you know, it's still feeling like a 4-star right now. It's just at first it was feeling like a 5-star, and now it's feeling more like a 4-star. But 4-star is still fantastic. And I still have half the book left to go, so maybe it'll pick back up. And if the whole last half doesn't feel too long, then I could take back my criticism. This is really just in the last 20% of the book that I've been reading. So from like 30% to 50%, it feels like it's a tiny bit dragging. I'm not bored, but I'm like on the edge of being bored, if that makes sense. Hello, it is actually the next day, and I have started Alma Katsu's The Deep, just because I needed an audiobook for this morning. So I'm in the middle of 3 different books right now. I am 55% of the way through From Below by Darcy Coates. I am 90 pages into The Deep by Nick Cutter, and The Deep is about 400 pages, so a little bit less than 25% of the way through that book. And I think I'm about 4 hours into The Deep by Alma Katsu, which is a 12-hour audiobook, I believe. So I'm about a third of the way through, or 33% into The Deep by Alma Katsu. And I can actually tell you a little bit more about The Deep by Alma Katsu now, because I was a little bit off in my description of the book earlier because I hadn't started it yet and I misunderstood what this book was. I thought this book was only about the sinking of the Titanic. However, it is actually, it's about the Titanic, but then it's also about the Britannic, which is a like sister ship of the Titanic that sailed a couple of years after the Titanic sunk, and this sister ship also sunk, and this was during World War I. And obviously it hasn't sunk yet. I just know from real life history that it does sink. And we follow one character, the most unlucky character in the world apparently. Her name is Annie, and she was both a survivor of the Titanic and is now on the Britannic as a nurse to these wounded soldiers. So I'm not looking forward to seeing her experience some trauma again. I can't believe someone who was on the Titanic got on another ship a couple of years after. Like, dang, that is brave. But anyways, and then we're not just following Annie though, we're also following a different family in the past timeline, because it kind of jumps back and forth between people on the Titanic and then Annie on the Britannic. And so we're also following a family on the Titanic. So there's some very interesting connections between the occult and real life history events. This really does feel like a historical fiction with creepy moments. So far, nothing has really felt like a horror book yet. So I'm interested to see how horrific it goes, or if it stays fairly light and it's more just like creepy events happening, but overall feels more like a historical fiction novel. We'll see. Either way, I am really enjoying it so far. And honestly, that's all I've been listening to this morning, because I needed an audiobook for while I cooked breakfast and stuff. And then I just got sucked in and I haven't picked up From Below or The Deep by Nick Cutter. I'm still enjoying both of those books right now, but The Deep by Alma Katsu is just so intriguing that that's all I'm listening to right now. So I'll update you as I get farther, or if I decide to pick up some of the other books, but for now, I'm all in on Alma Katsu's The Deep. So I finally just picked up The Deep by Nick Cutter. I've been putting it off all day. You could see I'm on sprint, so I was inspired to pick it up. And then within the first 10 pages of what I was reading today, a dog, a very cute, a very lovable dog, just showed up in the book. And I'm like, Mr. Nick Cutter, I do not trust you with this dog. What is the dog doing here? I know terrible things are going to happen to this dog. I just already know. There is no way, not a single chance that this dog makes it out okay. Something horrific, something gruesome, something emotionally traumatizing is going to happen to this dog, and I just need the will. I need to prepare myself mentally to continue reading this book because I just know it's gonna happen. I just know. I already know. Nick Cutter, I'm on to you. So I put the book back down. I'm gonna pick it back up as soon as I take my little dog out for a walk right now, but oh my god. Oh no, I didn't want a dog to be in here. Hello, I didn't end up reading much yesterday. This is the next morning. I just got home from teaching my first class of the semester. Feels good to have taught that class. I'm sad that summer is over, but also I'm excited for fall. Now, yesterday I really only read like 20 more pages of The Deep by Nick Cutter. Didn't read any more from Below, but I did end up listening to a lot more of The Deep by Alma, especially for today because I had to take the bus to campus and back. And so I'm about 75% of the way through The Deep by Alma, and I'm not loving it. It is very heavy on the historical fiction and only has very slight horror elements. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a very creepy historical fiction, but I would say it's like 85% historical fiction, 15% horror. This is a horror book in the same way that The Lost Apothecary is a fantasy book. Like, they're adjacent to the genre, but they're much more just historical fiction. And I don't love historical fiction. So I would highly recommend this book so far to people that do enjoy historical fiction, especially if you like historical fiction and horror. But for people that don't love historical fiction, I don't know. I don't know if you would like it because I'm not loving it. It's feeling like a 3-star right now. Like, it's fine. I'm not disliking it. I'm gonna finish up the audiobook because I do have the last 25% to listen to. Maybe the last 25% will get wild. Sometimes horror books really amp up at the end. But I just wanted to let you know, so far it's just okay. It's very slice of life for these characters on these boats. And, you know, we're 75% of the way through and nothing really scary has happened. So it's much more like there's these people playing cons on the rich people on the boat. There's a lot of marriage issues going on. There's class dynamics of the servants becoming friends with the rich people on the boat and then the servants getting in trouble for that. So there's just a lot of domestic stuff like that happening on this boat. And I want scary water stuff to be happening. Now, like I said, there is some small supernatural moments that are going on, and I really like those moments, but those are just like 15% of what's happening, and 85% is these domestic issues. So I'll let you know when I finish it, but I can't really see this getting more than 3 stars, even if it ends really well. It's sitting between like a 2 and a 3 right now, and I'm hoping with the end having more horror stuff, it'll be a solid 3, but if it continues to have not much horror stuff, it might be like a 2.75, rounded up to 3. I don't know. I'll let you know, but for now, I'm going to just drink some more coffee because I am not used to working so early. I had to wake up so early this morning, and I'm just gonna chill out on the couch and read more. I'm checking in because I finished The Deep by Alma, and it's getting 2 stars. I was going back and forth between 2 and 3. I think I'm just gonna give it a 2. I was not entertained, and you know, I read for entertainment, I read for enjoyment, and this book, while it was very unique and I feel like it was written very well and I feel like objectively it's a good book, it just didn't work for me. So I'm giving it 2 stars. Basically, it did get kind of intense-ish towards the end. It did ramp itself up towards the end and it got a little bit crazy, and I wish the ending had been more of the vibe of the whole book. Instead, it felt like there was nothing happening with just the slightest hint towards horror aspects and paranormal aspects, and then the last like 10-15 pages was a lot. And it was fun, but it was almost too much all at once. And I'm like, where was this for the whole first, like, however many pages of the book, you know? There was a twist. I did enjoy the twist, but again, the twist came at the very end. I feel like I would have liked this book more if the twist had happened in the middle of the book, and then the whole last half of the book was all of the characters dealing with this twist that happened. I think that would have been more entertaining, but instead it was very slice of life with the slightest hint of creepiness, and then bam, tons of stuff happen and it ends. I'm going to move on to reading The Deep by Nick Cutter and From Below for the rest of the evening. I think I'm going to take a bath and have some water vibes while I'm reading those books, but just wanted to update you. My first read for this vlog that I finished, The Deep by Alma Katsu, is getting 2 stars. Hello, good morning. So I didn't end up reading a ton last night. I feel like I've been so bad at reading my physical books for this vlog. I don't know, I'm kind of tired from the semester starting. And when I'm tired, physical books don't get read that much. I did end up starting Rolling in the Deep by Mira Grant, which is the prequel to Into the Drowning Deep. And as I said at the beginning of this vlog, I absolutely loved Into the Drowning Deep, and I've never read this prequel for some reason. I have it on audio. It's only a 3-hour audiobook, so I should be able to finish it really fast. I'm already, I think, halfway through, and I'm really enjoying it so far. And if you don't know, Into the Drowning Deep is about mermaids, so this prequel is following the ship that originally set out to make a documentary, one of those cheesy documentaries where they're trying to find mermaids in the ocean. I just finished Rolling in the Deep by Mira Grant, and I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. The reason why it's not getting 5 is just because it was so quick. I don't know, I find it difficult to give novellas a full 5 stars because I feel like I don't connect with novellas as much because they are so short. It's hard for me to feel fully invested in the characters when I haven't known them for very long in the book. Like I said earlier, highly recommend it as a little taste test to see if you will like Into the Drowning Deep. Into the Drowning Deep is so much better in my opinion. Like, that's a full 5 stars for me. Highly recommend Rolling in the Deep. Not a new favorite purely just because of its length, but I'm happy I read it, and it was so nice to be back in the world of Into the Drowning Deep. Now I am going to read, and I promise I'm not lying this time. Oh, I also painted my nails, finally. Promise I'm not lying this time. I am going to start reading a physical book, From Below by Darcy Coates. I really want to finish that today. Hopefully the next check-in I'm going to be saying, hey, I read a bunch of From Below, and not me cutting to tomorrow morning being like, I didn't read anything yesterday. Important update. I got a milkshake. And I also finished From Below by Darcy Coates. I really enjoyed this book. I'm giving it 4 stars. Some of the things that held it back from 5 stars is the issues I've talked about earlier. And one of the characters was just so dumb, and therefore it's a 4-star book and not a 5-star book, because I do think this character being dumb was just a character that was written badly. In my opinion, it seemed like this character was being dumb in order to advance the plot, and no real person would actually act like this character did. I still overall really enjoyed it though. Some of the positives, I think the setting was so cool. I loved all the different point of views that we got, and I loved the explanation for what was going on. The creepy scenes were quite creepy, and it just felt so action-packed. So if you like fake documentary stories in your horror books, if you like water settings, if you like action paired with creepy atmosphere, then I highly recommend From Below by Darcy Coates. Now, for the rest of the day, my job is to drink that milkshake because it's delicious, and read more of The Deep. I am on page 106 right now. So I still have quite a bit to go because this is a 400-page book, so there's 300 pages left. We'll see how much I get read today. Hello. Sorry, my hair is looking crazy right now, but I am reading The Deep right now. I am on page 150, and I have some thoughts. So I am contemplating DNFing right now. I'm not going to yet. I'm going to continue reading. But my issue is I don't care about the characters. The present timeline is, the chapters are so short. And usually I would be cool with short chapters, but these chapters are literally like a page to 2 pages. And then we go back to the flashbacks. And I don't care about the flashbacks. I care about the water stuff happening in the present timeline, not just his mundane life in the past. And he does have a lot of trauma in the past. So it's not like the past isn't also like, it fits into the horror book, you know? But it's just, I'm not as compelled by the past timeline, and the present timeline is what I want us to get to, but then every time we get to it, it happens so quick. And because everything is so choppy, I don't really care about the characters because I feel like I don't really know the present characters at all because we're just set in the past so much. So I just wanted to let you know my thoughts that because last time I checked in about The Deep, I was actually really liking it, and now I'm not liking it as much. I'm gonna keep reading, but I think I'll give it another 50-ish pages, and if I'm still feeling this way, it might end up being a DNF. Hello, good morning. It is the next day. I didn't read a ton of The Deep yesterday. I keep not wanting to pick it up. I brought it in, I took a bubble bath, and I was like, I'm gonna read a ton of this bubble bath. And then I was on TikTok the whole time. I get so addicted to TikTok. It's not really the book's fault, but at the same time, if I liked the book more, I think I would be wanting to pick it up more. So this morning, I actually subscribed to Scribd because my libraries don't have the audiobook for The Deep by Nick Cutter available, and I saw that it is available on Scribd, so I signed up, and I've been listening to the audiobook, and I am so close to DNFing. So I'm on page like 240 right now from the audiobooks. I've just been listening to it this morning. And there's only 400 pages in the book, so I'm past 50% of the way through, and I just don't care. I'm not hating it. It's just the problem is indifference, not hatred. It's just the horror that's in the present timeline very much focuses on nightmares, and I hate dreams in books. I do not care when an author starts describing the character's dream, whether or not it's a happy dream or a nightmare. Like, I just don't care. It's not happening. It's a dream. I don't care. And then the flashbacks are so disjointed because we don't know why these flashbacks, how they connect to the present story. I don't think they really do. I think it's just getting to know the character more and seeing flashbacks of his life. But I'm like, these flashbacks are doing nothing for me. Like, I care about the plot of the present story, not the character, because that's the other issue. I just don't care about the characters at all. So I'm going to keep listening to it just while I'm getting ready, because I want to get ready so I can have some makeup on when I film my outro for this vlog. And while I'm getting ready, that's when I will make my final decision. If nothing else that I listen to while I'm getting ready interests me in the book, then I am going to be DNFing. If, as I'm getting ready, something interests me, then I'll continue listening, because I think on the speed I'm listening to, there's only about 2 hours of actual listening time left in the audiobook. So when I next check in, you should see me all done up in my makeup, looking a bit better than I am right now, and I'll let you know if I ended up DNFing or if I ended up finishing the book. So I did decide to DNF The Deep by Nick Cutter. I was actually planning on continuing reading it. After I got ready, I was like, okay, what I just read wasn't terrible. I'll continue reading it. I sat down on the couch to keep reading it. And then they started talking about bee rape, like bumblebee rape in the book. And I was like, okay, I think I'm all done. I think I'm good with this book. I got what I wanted to get out of it. Which is not much, because I obviously did not enjoy this book. I DNF'd it. Now, I didn't hate it. I want to say that I didn't hate it. If I had finished it, I think it would have ended up being a 2-star book, because again, my issue was indifference, not hatred. And then the horror scenes we were getting were just not hitting the way I wanted them to hit, because I think I didn't care about the characters. And then the bee scene was like, I think it could have maybe worked if I cared about what was happening in the book, but that bee scene just ended up being like the last straw for me, and then I was like, I am done with this book. So that brings me to the end of the vlog. My rankings are kind of odd. I read 4 books for this vlog: The Deep, and then From Below by Darcy Coates, and Rolling in the Deep by Mary Grant. And they're both tied in little duos, so both at around 2 stars. You know, I DNF'd The Deep, of course, so take my 2-star rating with a grain of salt, but I'm pretty sure I got 300 pages in, which is 75% of the book, so I'm pretty confident my rating would have been 2 stars. But you know, if you don't like people to rate books that they DNF, take this rating with a grain of salt. But honestly, I don't know which I enjoyed more out of these 2 books. Both of the Deep books, they were just cursed. They had the same name, they were cursed. They this one was just boring, where it's too historical fiction focused. And this one was just boring, where it was too focused on dreams and scenes I just didn't care about, and flashback scenes where I wanted us to focus on the present timeline. The best way I can describe The Deep by Alma Katsu is it's the LaCroix of horror fiction. It is only a horror book by the smallest percentage point. It's like this book was a purely historical fiction book, and then it just sat in the same room as an actual horror book for a year or two, and by osmosis absorbed the slightest little amount of horror elements, and then is like, okay, this is a horror book. And it's like, no. This is a historical fiction book. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with the marketing of this book, because again, of historical fiction books, this is much more of on the horror side of historical fiction. It's just for me, who's primarily a horror reader, not a historical fiction reader, this felt like a historical fiction book, not like a horror book. If you are primarily a historical fiction book, if you're a book, no, you're not a book. If you're primarily a historical fiction reader, then maybe this book will feel like a horror book for you. But I don't recommend this to people out there that want a hardcore horror book, because this is not it. And then my final reviews of From Below and Rolling in the Deep, both the books I don't have physically. Of course, those are the ones I loved the most, the ones I don't actually own. From Below and Rolling in the Deep both got 4 stars, so neither are new favorites, but I really had a good time with both of these. And I would recommend both From Below and Rolling in the Deep. I had a ton of fun with this video. I love water horror books, and I'm glad I found 2 new 4-star books to be able to recommend within the water horror genre. And let me know what your favorite water horror books are, because I definitely want to explore more water horror books, and I feel like it's a genre that's kind of hard to find books for. So let me know down in the comments if you've read any water horror books and what your favorites are. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!